Well, do you remember? Well, I remember when I was in primary school and a paddle pop was only 10 cents. Well, do you remember? Well, I remember when I went to high school, I caught a train to go to high school, and I caught one of these, a red rattler. There was no air conditioning, no automatic doors. They were manual doors that you had to open yourself, and you could actually leave them open while the train was going, hang your body half out of the train. That was the air conditioning back then. And do you remember, when I went to university was free. There was no government debt, no HECS, nothing to pay off afterwards. So do you notice, as we remember these things, the paddle pop, the red rattler, free university education, we all went, that was nice. Well, wouldn't it be good if at the end of our lives and long after we're gone, people will also remember us fondly and go, that person was a good person. Well, today we're talking about legacy. So welcome again to our forum series this month. Our topics have been success, goodness, life, and now today, legacy. Each week, one by one, we've gone through these topics, seen what the Bible, in particular the book of Ecclesiastes, has had to say about our topic. And this comes in the form of a 20-minute talk from me now, followed by 10 minutes of question and answer from you guys. And today we're talking about legacy. And we can define legacy as something we do, something we leave behind, an achievement that allows us to be remembered fondly long after we're gone. So our question is this, well, how? How can I have an extraordinary legacy? So that's what we're going to answer today. And you can see in the outline in front of you, there's three parts to today's talk. And the first part we'll look at, well, why? Why do we want to be remembered? In the middle part of the talk, we'll look at problems we're trying to be remembered. And then in the final part of the talk, what the Bible has to say. How can I be remembered? What's a way to have an extraordinary legacy? So let's begin with the first part of the talk now. Why? Why do we want to be remembered? And here I suggest two things. Number one, we want our lives to have a lasting significance to those around us. Now, as you might know, I've got 3 young boys, and part of the fun of parenting is working out what to name your children. And so we thought we'd have a bit of fun naming our children. And so for boy number 1, we thought, well, my name Sam is a top 10 dog name. So why don't we give boy number 1 a top 10 dog name? And so we did. We named him Toby. And then for boy number 2, we thought, well, my name Sam is one of the top beer names in the United States, Sam Adams. So why don't we give boy number 2 a top 10 beer name from Australia? So we named him Cooper. And then for boy number 3, we thought, well, my name Sam is a jock name. Sports people have the name Sam Burgess. So why don't we name boy number 3 a jock sports person name? And so we named him Jonty, after Jonty Rhodes, who played cricket for South Africa. And so we had a lot of fun with the first names, dog names, beer names, jock names. But for their middle names, we thought, no, we'll do something a bit more meaningful. And so for their middle names, we named them after their grandparents. And it was a way of showing respect and honour to our own parents, to show that somehow we are who we are because of them, that their lives have had a lasting significance to the next generation and the next generation after that they will be remembered, especially in their names, long after they're gone. So it's good to be remembered, and it's good to remember those around us. Every year we celebrate Anzac Day, and on Anzac Day we have ceremonies and marches and services. Why? Lest we forget. So we don't forget. So we remember. So we respect. We honour the sacrifices of these soldiers to show that we are who we are because of them, and that their lives have touched us and their lives have everlasting, meaningful significance for the generations still to come. And that's why we too want a bit of a legacy. We too want to be remembered, to show that we did more than just eat, sleep, or pay the bills, but we touched the lives of those around us. We made a difference, and somehow our lives are significant to at least the next generation and the generations still to come. It's just nice to know that we made a difference and that our lives were significant and fondly remembered. The second reason why we want to be remembered is this. God has placed eternity in our hearts. In my sock drawer, there will always be one sock by itself. And I'm thinking, what am I going to do with a sock by itself? Where's the other sock that goes with this sock? And sometimes there'll be a button all by itself. And I think, where's the shirt that goes with this button? Because this button by itself isn't much good. And sometimes when you clean the house, you find a jigsaw puzzle piece all by itself. I think, where's the rest of the puzzle that this goes with? Because this piece by itself, it's not much use. So these things all need to belong to a bigger picture, a bigger part, to have meaning and purpose. And in the same way, our lives are much the same. If all we have is just this life, well, it's just a blip in the timeline of the universe. We need to be part of something bigger, a bigger picture, a bigger story for our life to have meaning and purpose. And the Bible calls this bigger picture eternity. This is what Ecclesiastes says. It says in chapter 3, verse 11, God has set eternity in our hearts. So we have a God-given cry for eternity. We have a God-given need for eternity. Our hearts cry out to be part of something bigger, something significant, a bigger story, a bigger picture for our lives to have meaning, purpose, and significance. And so some way, if I can be remembered, then I can be part of this timeline of eternity, and my life will be more than just a blip in the timeline of the universe, and I will be part of eternity. So they're the reasons why we want to be remembered. But now let's come to the middle part of the talk, problems with trying to be remembered. And here I suggest two things. Number one, we might not be remembered at all. So a while ago, I went to my 20-year high school reunion, and people say the 20-year reunion is the one to go to, because the 10-year reunion, that's the one not to go to. Because if you go to the 10-year reunion, everyone still turns up, trying to big note and outdo themselves. Look at me at the 10-year reunion. Look at my house, look at my job, look at my car, look at my family. But the 20-year reunion, we all turn up, and by then we've lost the job, we've lost the house, we've lost the car, we've lost the family, we're all broken and we're back to equal, we're all normal again, and we just talk to each other like normal people. But the 20-year reunion is the one that also messes with your head, because someone will come up to you and say, hey, do you remember me? I'm Peter. And you think, Peter? Is that you? Because there's nothing that looks the same about Peter. His body has changed shape, his face has changed shape, his nose has changed shape. All that's the same are the eyeballs. You look at him and you think, yeah, they're your eyeballs. Yep, Peter, that is you. You have the same eyeballs. But then someone else would come up to you and say, hey, do you remember me? I'm John. No, I do not remember you at all. It's not like I don't recognize you. I don't remember you even being alive, existing. I don't remember you being an ontological entity. You may as well not exist. I do not remember you. Sorry, my bad, but that's just how it is. And that's just how it is for most things. We do not remember what goes on around us. My family has this family photo. It's not exactly this one, but it's something very similar. It's black and white. It's got me as a baby in traditional Chinese gear, and I'm sitting on the lap of my great-grandfather. My parents were showing me this photo, and they go, say, do you remember your great-grandfather? Look, there's a photo of you with your great-grandfather. And I say, no, I have no memory of my great-grandfather. His memory doesn't even go 2 or 3 generations. It's gone just like that. My wife and I once travelled Europe, and in Europe there's statues everywhere. And this is in Bruges, in Belgium, and every time you see these statues, you think, who are these people? They must have been rich or powerful, or they did something amazing, because there's a statue in their honour, but no one knows who they are. And even you ask the locals, who's this person? They don't know. And now there's a statue, pigeons just roost in them, tourists eat their lunches at the steps of these statues, but no one knows who these people are. Yet once upon a time, they must have been rich, powerful, and significant. There's a statue in their honour, but no one knows who this person is. And the Bible says something very similar. Chapter 9, verse 13. I also saw under the sun this example of wisdom that greatly impressed me. There was once a small city with only a few people in it, and a powerful king came up against it, and he surrounded it and built huge siege works against it. Now there lived in that city a man poor but wise, and he saved the city by his wisdom, but nobody remembered that man. The Bible gives us a little micro story. Hey, there was a small city, powerful king, powerful army attacked it, but one man saved the city. And maybe in his honor they built a statue, maybe, but even now no one remembers this man. Doesn't matter how rich, powerful or good you are, no one will be able to remember you. Let's take our Sydney, for example. Beautiful city, beautiful harbour, great bridge. We're proud of it. We show it off. Tourists come from all over the world to see Sydney. Sydney is named after this guy, Lord Sydney. Yet none of us know anything about him. Was he a good person, bad person? Was he a family person? What did he do for fun? What were his hobbies? No one knows. And yet we say his name every day. It must have been impressive. They've named a world city in his honour. Yet none of us remember this person. I work one day a week as a doctor, and we work in the operating theatres, and all the surgical instruments that we use are named after famous doctors that have come before us. And so all the time we're asking for instruments, and they all have names after doctors. So these are the Gillies forceps, named after Dr. Gillies. These are the Langenbeck retractors, named after Dr. Langenbeck. These are the Mollison's retractors, named after Dr. Mollison. We say their names every day, yet we don't know who these guys are. And sometimes as a joke, I say to the surgeon, who was Dr. Mollison anyway? And we say, we don't know, who cares? Just pass me the retractor. They must have been amazing. We've named instruments after them. We say their names every time we operate. Yet we don't know who these people are. We do not remember them. And that means no matter what we do in this life, no matter how impressive, maybe we get a library named after us. Maybe there's a scholarship or grant named in our honour. Maybe we discover something, invent something. These are good things to do in and of themselves, and they make a difference. But if we're doing those things to be remembered, we're not going to be remembered. It's not going to work that way. And there's a second worst problem, and it's this. Even if we are remembered, we might not be treasured by those who come after us. My wife and I once saw this book in the bookshop. It's titled, Everything Men Know About Women. And so we bought it and we gave it to my wife's father as a joke. Because a joke is this, you open the book up and it's just 200 blank pages. And that's the joke. Men know nothing about women. And you really see that when a man tries to impress a woman that he likes. He will do things that he thinks will impress her. Like he'll say to her, hey, do you want to see my new world in Minecraft? Hey, how good is that? Or look at me and my motorbike. I can do a wheelie. Hey, are you impressed? Or come back and see, I've got all the original Star Wars figurines. And the poor guy thinks this is impressing her, but so not impressing her. If anything, it's scaring her away. And to say we can do everything we can to be remembered by those we love, but the great paradox, the cruel irony is, whatever we do to be remembered might actually drive away those that we love. We actually might end up losing them, so that even if we are remembered, we won't be treasured by those we leave behind. This is how it works. Let's say as a teacher, I finally get a textbook named after me. And so for generations to come, they'll always be saying my name and honouring me as they open up my textbook named after me. But in doing so, I've had to lock myself away in a study to research and write. I've had to go around the world on a tour to promote my book so that when I'm famous, my children might say, well, we don't know who you are, and my wife might not love me anymore. Or as a doctor, I can get a disease named after me. That's when you've made it in medicine. When they name a disease after you and you've discovered this disease, but then your children will say, well, that's great, but where were you when we needed you? And your wife might say, well, I just get the impression you love your work much more than you love me. Or as a parent, we might invest all our time, energy and money into our children. We drive them to the music lessons, to sports and to extra tutoring. We help them with their homework. And yes, when they grow up, they're powerful, they're rich, they're significant, they're doctors, they're lawyers. but they don't visit us. They don't call us. They don't let us see the grandchildren. Why? Because they will feel like their whole life has been controlled and manipulated, like they were our project, like they were our identity, purpose, and meaning, like they were our legacy, and now they want to break free because they want a life for themselves. And so by trying to leave a legacy, by trying to be remembered in our achievements and in our children, we might actually lose the people we love the most. We might be remembered, but we might not be treasured. So that's a problem with trying to be remembered. So what does the Bible say? How can I have a legacy? Let's come to the third and final part of the talk. And here I suggest two things. Number one, the Bible says this: enjoy the good things that God has given us as a gift from God. Ecclesiastes 3 verse 12. I know that there is nothing better for people than to be happy and to do good while they live, that each of them may eat and drink and find satisfaction in all their toil. This is the gift of God. What does the Bible say about trying to be remembered? It said, don't worry about being remembered. Instead, just enjoy everything that God has given us, the food, the friends, the family, the fun times, the work, as good gifts from God. Don't make them less than what they are. Enjoy them, but don't make more of them than what they are. Don't make them our identity, our purpose, our meaning, our legacy, or what will get us remembered, because we will destroy them and they will destroy us. I got married 19 years ago, and we had a wedding ceremony, which was just a nice little afternoon thing in the outdoors. My friends were in the band. They played in a 3-piece band. Another friend of ours was a chef, and he made the food. So it's a delightful, nice little afternoon wedding. But if you ask my wife, she says, she remembers almost nothing of that wedding because she says she was running around so much on that day, she forgot to enjoy herself. And that's what we're always telling married couples on the day. This is your day. Make sure you enjoy yourselves. And that's the cruel irony of weddings, that the couple the ones who should be most enjoying it are usually the ones who are least enjoying it, because they're running around worrying about so many things. And usually they're trying to make the wedding memorable. And that's the irony. By trying to make it memorable, they're actually not enjoying the wedding itself. And I remember we were trying to do things like get it videotaped. We haven't watched the video ever since we got married, and now we can't. It's VHS. It's too late. And so all the effort in trying to make your wedding memorable is wasted. You should just enjoy yourselves on the day. And the Bible's sort of saying the same thing. He said, don't try to be remembered. Enjoy ourselves. Enjoy the food, the family, the friends, the fun time, the work as a good gift from God. Enjoy it. Don't make less of it. Enjoy it. But don't make more of it than what it is. Don't make it what will connect us with eternity. But then we say, well, how can I connect with eternity? I have a God-given cry, a God-given need to be part of something eternal, something bigger. If I can't do it through me or my achievements or my children, how can I connect with eternity? The second thing the Bible tells us is this. Ecclesiastes 12 verse 1. Remember your Creator in the days of your youth, before the days of trouble come. How can I be part of eternity? Well, rather than trying to be remembered, the Bible flips it around and says, instead of trying to be remembered, remember God instead. See, every day for our lives to work, day by day, there's certain things we have to remember. Every day we have to remember our keys. If we don't remember our keys, we're locked out of home when we get home. Every day we have to remember our passwords. And so according to Splash Data, the top 3 most common passwords last year were password, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And we sort of laugh and think, oh, come on, a password's meant to be harder than that. But at the same time, you can see why we do it. We've got to remember our passwords. We've got to make it easy to remember, because otherwise we're locked out of normal life if we don't have a password. Every day we have to remember our mobile phones. If we don't have our phones, we think, oh my goodness, how am I going to get through the day? So for every day to function, we have to remember our keys, our passwords, our mobile phones. And the Bible says, yes, and every day also remember. Remember God. See, we might believe there's a God, but we live as if there is no God. The Bible says the opposite, remember. Well, what am I meant to remember? I think at the very least, remember there's a God who loves us, there's a God who makes us, and there's a God who saves us. And yes, my life is just a blip in the timeline of the universe. It's just a puff of smoke, and that's it. But that's okay. Don't fight it. Instead, remember God, and He will connect us with eternity. See, in the New Testament, Jesus comes along, and do you remember that story where there's a thief dying on the cross next to Jesus? What does He say to Jesus? He says, remember me when you enter your kingdom. So how can we be remembered? The Bible's answer is this: remember Jesus, and He will remember us, and He will connect us with eternity. Because one of the great blessings that Jesus gives us in the Bible is this: it's not just forgiveness of sins, He gives us eternal life. He connects us with the eternity that our hearts cry out for. There's a life still to come. So we don't have to make this present life what will connect us with eternity. There's a life to come. If we remember Jesus, Jesus will remember us both in this life and the life to come. This is my grandfather. He lived to the age of 102. And at his funeral, I remember he packed out both halls of the church, which is quite remarkable because if you lived to 102, usually all your friends have died before you, so you actually have a very small, lonely funeral. But he was so remarkable, he managed to pack out both halls of the church because he managed to somehow touch the lives of all the generations. He was so significant. I still remember he spent time, invested time in me, mentored me, taught me really good habits, gave me little bits of life advice. So he was very significant. I have a special place in my heart for him always. But my boys have no memory of my grandfather. And that means when I die, the memory of my grandfather dies forever. We really are just a blip in the timeline of the universe. We are a puff of smoke, and then we're gone. And if we fight that, we will either destroy those around us, drive them away, or we will destroy ourselves. The Bible says, don't fight it. Just enjoy our life for what it is, a good gift from a good God to enjoy. Don't make more of it than what it is. Don't make it what will connect us with eternity. Instead, remember Jesus. He will remember us, and He'll give us the eternity that our hearts cry out for, and that's how we can have an extraordinary legacy.
The first question that came across was this. He said there was a similar question to last week. Where is the balance of kind of living for the future or eternity, I think because that's where it came in the talk, and living in the now, like say with my job and things like that? Where's that kind of balance? Where do I live for God, and maybe where do I live with my life that I have right now?
Yeah, okay. So where's the balance? I think the balance is, see, they're not in tension, so it's not either this or that, but it's a both and. It's both this and that together in a complementary partnership. So how can I enjoy the present? Well, part of the way of enjoying the present is knowing there's a future, that there's more than just this, so that I don't have to make more of this than what it really is. And part of enjoying the future is also investing time in the present. So it's a both and. And the easiest way of thinking of it is, again, the whole relationship between gift and giver. So what I have right now is a gift from a good God to enjoy. And so I also need to be in a good relationship with the giver. So not just have a gift, not just have a giver, but both to enjoy a good relationship with God, the giver, and to enjoy the gifts the way He wants me to enjoy them.
All right. Okay, good. Also, if you have any questions from the floor, just put up your hand and I'll be able to get those questions to Sam. Says we hear one of my biggest fears is forgetting God when I'm old and sick. How can I make sure that this doesn't happen? How do I not forget God?
Yes, what happens to me as I get older or change, so part of the issue here might be dementia, so I lose memory or some other disability. Well, with dementia is what we lose is short-term memory, but they find you still have long-term memory. And so although we might forget little things like names or where we are, whether we left the stove on, we don't forget the long-term relational memories. We might forget faces, but we don't forget the relationships. And so they do find with people, even with severe advanced dementia, they still remember Bible verses, they still remember Christian songs and Christian hymns. So in that sense, we don't forget God, But in another sense, even if we do forget God, God's love for us is unconditional. It's not conditional upon some aspect of me or something I have to do. God's for me is unconditional. So He will remember me unconditionally. Even if I forget Him, He'll still remember me. And we can trace that back to that verse, 1 John chapter 4. God loved us even when we didn't love Him. So it was never based on us in the first place, never based on something I had to do. And the way theologians explain it is God's love for us is based upon what Jesus has done for us. So God will always remember us because of what Jesus has done for us. And I get to enjoy it by just having a faithful relationship with God. And as you say, well, what happens at the end of life when there are disabilities or dementia? Well, again, God overlooks all that and has an unconditional love. And whenever He sees us, He sees Jesus. So Jesus is perfect, so we don't have to be perfect.
There you go. All right. Thanks, Sam. Any questions from the floor or anything, any pushback on what Sam's been saying? Please feel free to do so. Here's just another question.
Yeah.
Okay, you've been talking from Ecclesiastes over the last few weeks, obviously the last few months probably. Where's a good place for me to start if I want to kind of this whole remembering process of kind of coming to know God?
Yeah, where's a good place to start in the Bible? Well, the Bible is not one book. It's 66 different books, but they all have some groups or categories. So maybe let me suggest 4 categories we can work with. One is I've been dealing with Ecclesiastes, and the Bible calls that wisdom literature. And there's several other books like Ecclesiastes and Proverbs. So that's very good for the day by day. How can I make wise choices? Do I catch the bus or the train today? Well, wisdom literature is very good for that. But also the book of Psalms, the biggest book in the Bible, right in the middle of the Bible, the book of Psalms. And through the Psalms, we can pray our emotions to God. We have the full range of emotions in the Bible. When we're sad, when we're angry, when we're bitter, or when we're happy, we can pray those emotions to God through the book of Psalms. All the emotions are there. Or we can go to the New Testament, the first 4 books in the New Testament, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, where we can meet the person of Jesus. So Jesus is more than just information to believe. He becomes a person I can know, trust, and follow relationally. And finally, there's some letters in the Bible at the end of the New Testament, and we can read that to know more about the tradition of Christianity. So there are ways we can remember God. Day by day wisdom, praying the emotions, knowing Jesus personally, and also understanding the tradition of Christianity.
Wow, there you go. And we do have some of the accounts of Jesus' life and also Ecclesiastes back on the back table. They're free. You can please take those. Also, if you're interested in getting together with somebody, fill out the feedback form. Now, all of a sudden, everybody's thumbs must have come alive because all of a sudden we have a whole bunch of questions. So we'll try and get through as many of these as we can. Some people believe that the work that we have now, or we do now, carries into eternity. To what extent will our actions continue kind of into the next life, or if there is a next life?
Yeah. Well, will there be work? Will there be play in the new heavens, the new earth? I think the Bible hints there will be work, there will be play, there will be rest. But it seems like part of our human nature is we need these things. That's just how we're wired. We're wired to have relationships. We're also wired to rest, but we're also wired to work. And I think a lot of the Old Testament passages are very vivid, very colourful, and I think they show that the new heavens, the new earth, I'm suggesting it will be just an even more intense earth. So yes, there will be mountains, there will be trees, there will be rivers, there will be animals, I think, and there will be work, but it won't be the cursed work that we have. It will be purposeful and meaningful work. You know, they've done studies that when people are unemployed, the rate of depression is 100%. So somehow, through purposeful work, we find joy. So I think there will be purposeful work in the life to come. So what we do right now is brief. It's a puff of smoke. It's a blip in the timeline of the universe. We shouldn't invest eternity in the work we enjoy. We should just enjoy it just for what it is. Just like you enjoy a meal, it's meant to be good in and of itself just for the meal. And work is good in and of itself just for the work. But somehow it shows us, it's an image, it's a pattern of how much more enjoyable and purposeful work and play and food will be in the new heavens and the new earth.
The next 2 questions, then we'll probably finish there, would kind of go along the lines of work. Interesting, it was kind of the same sort of thing. So some people really work to be remembered. That's kind of their goal. There are historical figures, like you brought up, Lord Sidney. What if that was their goal and they remembered like they wanted to be remembered? Do you think that there's something wrong with that?
again, we can do great things. We can do meaningful things. We invent a cure for cancer, discover something, donate a scholarship, a grant. That will make a difference. It will touch the lives of those around us. But it all comes down to motive. What is motive? What is motive? A motive is the difference between a gift and a bribe, manslaughter and murder. Same action, same outcome, but the motive makes it two completely different moral actions. So why am I doing these things? Is it to glorify God? Is it to make a difference? Is it to spread God's love, mercy, and justice on this planet? They are fantastic motives. And the work becomes good in and of itself. But if my motive is to somehow find identity, purpose, and meaning in this, then I've made it an idol, and it will disappoint me. And so I will either destroy it by trying to make it do something it cannot do for me, or I will destroy myself in trying to do something that these things aren't designed to do for me. So like through the trophy family, I will destroy them, or through work will destroy me. And you will find with a lot of these significant figures, when you dig a little bit deeper, they weren't that well respected by their closest circle. So it's a respect, but it's a grudging respect. So they end up losing the respect, trust, and love of those from whom they're desperately needing it the most. Okay. So again, enjoy everything God has given us, but don't make more of it than what it is. Just enjoy it as a good gift from God, and then enjoy God as the giver who gives us identity, purpose, and meaning, and He will remember us rather than those around us.
I think you actually answered the last question there too with that one. So if we didn't answer any of the questions, please take the time. Sam will be around, so if you want to come up and have a chat with him, we can. Sam, thank you so much for the series.